Hello, everyone. Welcome to the podcast Magic is Real. This is Shannon Torrance. I am your host. I am a psychic medium and a lover of all things metaphysical and spiritual. And I am very happy today to introduce you to Bryan Duszczak, who is probably would describe himself as an ordinary person who had an extraordinary experience, even though I think we're all extraordinary people. So I'm going to introduce Bryan Duszczak as an extraordinary person who is here to share so kindly your experience when you died and you came back. But first, I'd love to start with just learning about who you are. And I just want to thank you so much for carving out time to be here.
Yeah, total pleasure to be here. I'm glad that we had the chance to finally get together and glad people are going to be checking this out and
Me
sharing my
too.
experience.
Me too. So tell me about yourself, will you? I know that's such a broad question, but generally, as it pertains to your spiritual journey, um, who who did you identify as before this happened? Did you grow up with any spirituality? Were you into spiritual topics, or were you an atheist? Anything you want to share that you're comfortable sharing about your background would be great, because I like to know. I think that our own personal stories inform the nature of our spiritual experiences as well. So I'm really interested to know who you are and where you come from.
I've definitely noticed that too. After what happened to me, I've kind of looked into like other people's experiences, and I have noticed that some people, based off of how they're raised, what they know, if people are like ultra Christian, they might see Jesus. If people are Muslim or Buddhist or whatever, they're going to see their deity,
Yep.
so to speak. So I guess spirituality wise, first 7 years of my life, I had been baptized twice by my Southern Baptist birth mother, but my parents were separated. So I did live with my dad most of my life, and he was just kind of atheist. He'd say, "Oh gosh," or "Gee dang it," but he wasn't religious at all.
Yeah.
He kind of poo-pooed the whole concept, to be honest. So there wasn't a lot of influence of like anything churchy or religion into my life until he did remarry. Actually, when I was about 7, 8 years old, um, he met a woman who was actually very spiritual. Um, I like to think back that I kind of chose her because I had met her first. It was a friend of mine's mother, and we basically introduced them. And what was it, 5 months later they were engaged, and less than a year later they got married.
Oh,
So
wow.
it was kind of cool in a way. I got a chance to pick my stepmom. um
And your new sibling, kind of.
yeah, that was kind of awkward at first. We were friends. She's a female, so she's my
Oh, yeah.
stepsister. She's a year older than me. I didn't have a crush on her or anything like that, anything weird.
Yeah.
But it was awkward at first. At first we were friends, and then she became my sister, so that we got along a little less over the
Yeah.
years. It
That's
just
funny.
now we live in the house and we're sick of each other. Um, but it was really cool. My stepmom was just about every aspect you can imagine. She meditated, she did yoga. Um, she didn't have one strict discipline though. She was just very open-minded to pretty much all the aspects, and it really piqued my curiosity. When I was young, I think 8 years old is when we started doing wakeful dreaming courses,
Oh,
which is
tell me
basically,
about that. Yeah.
so it's basically a group meditation setting, usually a dozen, 8 to 12 people. So I was already meditating and it was guided. Basically, we were focusing good, positive energy towards the universe, just loving, kind, positive thoughts. And we would do that for sometimes a couple hours at a time. And that was really like my first major introduction to all these things. Never really got into yoga. Thought that was kind of weird when I was younger. Um, Meditation was definitely a thing. Um, there were so many books that she had showed me along the way. My birth mother's part Native American, so I was very curious about, Native American culture, particularly like medicine, herbs, things of that nature. Um, just a lot of different aspects. Buddhism came into it for a while, Zen Buddhism. Um, but, moving into like junior high, high school, I kind of lost my way, had a little bit of anger issues. I think I did develop somehow. and kind of moved away from spirituality a little bit, although I was still reading books and things. I was actually getting more curious into like powers of the mind type things, seeing auras, telekinesis, telepathy, things of that nature. Less so like the spiritual aspect, but more powers of the mind. I found very particularly interesting. Um, I think by eighth grade, I had already read Whitley Strieber's Communion series about abduction by
Mhm.
aliens, so I thought that was an interest of mine growing up. Um, and yeah, it was just it was a blessing to be raised by her from 7 years up on. It really opened my mind to a whole lot of things. I definitely had kind of lost my way throughout high school, but kind of got back on track at 18. Let's just say I went through a situation and decided to go on the road the year of 1993. And the girlfriend that I was with was a big fan of the Grateful Dead. Met some of her friends that were going on the road to see the Rainbow Family of Living Light, if you've ever heard of that. Uh,
Yeah, I've been to a Dead show with Jerry Garcia. That's my I'm Gen X, so yeah.
okay, same, same. And
Yep.
I wasn't big on the Dead, but I did play hand drums a little bit of a musician. As you see, there's a djembe right there behind me.
Oh, yeah.
Uh, but had started raining at the concert. I didn't get in. Some dudes were playing drums in the parking lot. I went in the tent with them. We played for a good hour or so. The show had already been over for a minute, and when we decided to kind of finish this song that we were playing, all of a sudden people are all around us, around the tent, saying, "Hey, keep going. That's better than the show. You guys are awesome. Come out, drag your instruments out here." So I think there was like 7 or 8 of us in the tent, and we dragged all of our stuff out there. We put a guitar case out in front of us and played for another easily an hour. And before we knew it, we had acquired almost $1,000 in that guitar case. People were just really
Wow.
throwing money in there. And it was all said and done. We were getting kind of tired. The sun's gone down, and these guys are like, "Hey, man, we've been playing for like a few weeks, and we haven't seen this much money the entire time that we've been playing." He's like, "You want to come on the road with us?" And we're going to something called the Rainbow Gathering. And he said it's basically ran by Native Americans, and they invite every religious aspect, and they come to celebrate, and it's all in peace. And it's an open thing. They don't have a permit to do it. Just people just come and get to know about each other's beliefs, and it's all about peace. Like, actually, I could use some peace in my life right around then. So I'm like, yeah, screw it. Let's go. Went on the road with them that whole summer and stayed with Hare Krishna, Buddhist monks, Rastafarians, all kinds of Native Americans, punk rockers, doctors, lawyers. Everybody's allowed. But I asked a lot of questions and got a lot of cool answers, and it really kind of opened my mind to outside of what I had known or learned in the suburbs of Illinois where I grew up. Um, Came back home and went right back into the whole, work scene, did a lot of sales jobs for a few years. And, I did meditate once in a while, but I think I had lost my way again. I wasn't as deep, I thought a lot of things, but um, I wasn't living a pure life. Let's say it like that. Still a little wild. Never was a big partier, but still a little wild. And um, I had actually started gaining some weight. I was indulging myself, and I was making pretty good money, but it was, pizza, bacon, fast food, donuts, steaks, Red Bull, Mountain Dew, just shoving my face. And I had maintained a weight of about 150, 160 pounds most of my life. And last I looked at a scale, I had gotten up to 247.
Wow.
And that's when I stopped looking at the scale, and I'm sure I gained some more weight past that. I like to say I most likely hit about 260, but I'm certainly was past 250, which is big for me.
Yeah.
I looked like I was 7 months pregnant for sure.
Yeah, you don't look like a big guy.
Five 5'8", and I'm back down right now to about
Yeah.
160, like 157, I think. But yeah, I lost all that weight since then. But one day I was indulging on a pizza, the whole thing by myself, sucking down a 2 liter, and wasn't thinking about my health. Had been eating a lot of bacon and Mountain Dew and Red Bull and all the things. I was working 2 jobs. I was bouncing at a bar at night, so I'd stay awake, drinking all the Red Bull and eating bar food. And I just that's when it started. I had already, maybe for 2 weeks, had some sort of pain in my left leg behind my calf. I thought it was a Charlie horse of some sort. I had gone to see a doctor and he said, "I'll just massage it out, take some Epsom salt baths, you'll be okay." What I didn't know is my blood was clotting, and I had built a blood clot inside my leg. And I was literally limping around work and didn't know what that was. And as I'm sitting here eating the pizza, apparently that clot got loose. And for whatever reason, I felt a pain under my right rib. That's where your pancreas is. Come to find out, my blood sugar had been around 700 for as far as they could go back, and your blood sugar is supposed to be around 90 to 100.
Oh my God, yeah, that's diabetic
Oh yeah, that's literally,
levels.
they said comatose levels. So
Yeah.
I'm lucky I didn't just drop dead before that. But the combination of all the sugar in my system, my blood clotting, and obviously this severe clot in my leg that I had no idea that's what it was. Um, Everything combined, just finished off probably 2/3 of that pizza by myself, and just this burning, dull, strange pain on the right side. The If you've almost passed out before, that ringing in the ears, the chalky
Yep.
in the head feeling, the tunnel vision started kicking in.
Yep.
And at first I thought, it's just indigestion, but it just got progressively worse. And then it was when I couldn't catch my breath. The breathing was getting more shallow, and that lightheaded feeling just got worse and worse. My wife at the time and I were kind of fighting, but I still asked her to take me to the hospital. She kind of laughed it off for another 10, 15 minutes. I'm like, no, I'm serious. I feel bad. I've got insurance. I better go get this checked out. I feel like total crap. Luckily, the hospital was about 7 minutes away, so we flew there. I got out of the car, and she peeled away and drove off, went back home, thinking I was just playing oh poor me or something like that. When in fact, no, I was having a stroke and had no idea.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Um, I barely made it to the door. It was maybe 30, 40 steps to get from where she dropped me off to those sliding motion doors. And at this point, the tunnel vision was literally like looking through a paper towel tube. Like all I could see was maybe this much in front of me wherever I looked, the ringing in the ears. I could hear voices when I walked in, as far as the people in the room, but very much a Charlie Brown type feeling, or when you're on an airplane and the air pressure's compacted your ears so much you can't really make out what they're saying. And it was a very panicky feeling. I know that I've got maybe 15 seconds to get somebody's attention because I'm about to pass out. The doors opened. I looked to my left, and there's people filling out paperwork, and there is no chance that I'm going to be able to wait in line, fill out some paperwork, and for my name to be called. Um, I'm not sure what it was, but I took a couple steps towards the hallway to my right, and thank gosh I made eye contact with an orderly. He's wearing the blue green aqua smock or whatever that's called. I'm colorblind. But he was pushing a gurney, and that was exactly what I knew my body needed right then and there. And I kind of pointed at him to get his attention, and I tried to say, "Help me." At least that was the last thought that occurred in my head. And in that moment, that sandy, chalky, ringing in the ears feeling just kind of took over. And I watched my arm, my hand, and then the back of my head fall to the ground. And that was it. I knew right then and there, like, okay, I'm not in my body. I just died. Like, this is it. I'm dead. And I I want to say, and it was adrenaline rush, but now I'm not connected to my body anymore. But I was having some sort of just like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, I'm not in my body. I'm dead. And one of the first thoughts that I remember feeling was I didn't complete my mission. It's too soon. I didn't finish what I came here to do. Now, in my body, I have no idea what that is, but out of my body, it was like clear as day is that there was a mission and that I didn't finish it and that God's going to be real mad because I was here for a reason, you know? And I'm a lot of things were happening in just a matter of mere seconds, but like right away, I'm thinking like, how can I see because my eyes are down there and I'm realized like somehow my soul is interpreting the bending of the prisms of light. I can't really explain that, but it's really hard to explain. Again, I have no eyes, but yet I can see, and I'm bending the rays of light, and I'm interpreting them into the vision of what's happening around me. And then I'm like, all right, my other senses, how can I hear? I don't have any ears, and I realize like I can feel the vibration of every single thing within my space or within this room. It's a very awkward feeling because if I had had a chest, I could say like if music is playing real loud, you can feel it in your chest. Well, I don't have a chest, but yet I can feel the vibration of everything around me when people are talking. I can feel the tonation of their voice that you can feel that. And it's also a very panicky feeling because like you should, I don't know, it's kind of hard to explain. Again, you're limited by your five senses when you're actually in your body, but yet you're still able to feel things without your actual body. So it's a very kind of a strange thing to feel. Like you can see, if I had a tongue, I'm sure I could taste. But I remember looking at the gurney that the orderly when he was coming towards me when I fell, and it's kind of hard to explain that if you looked at something, you could almost feel the molecular structure of the metal of the gurney. You could feel its cold density, but yet I'm not touching it. One of the nurses that came, I could look at the garb she was wearing, and you could feel like the molecular density of the material, like of what it was made from. It was like such a familiar thing. You could almost taste it in a way too, although obviously I'm not spiritually licking anybody while they're wearing clothes, but you could feel these things. And it's a very awkward feeling to be out of body. I had been astral a few times as a teenager before, and one thing that I needed to double check as I'm looking around was there's normally a cord that goes from around this area as a soul energy that connects usually to around your belly button area to your body that keeps you attached. And within these first 10 seconds, I realized, like, oh no, I am not connected at all to my body. This is serious, all while at the same time, like, oh crap, I need to get back in my body. I didn't finish my mission. I'm looking around and I'm realizing I can see behind me, I can see under me, above me, wherever you focused your attention. Which is a very strange thing to be able to see, like kind of 360-ish. Um, Very panicky feeling. Again, I'm having an adrenaline rush. I'm realizing that I'm not in my body. I'm not connected. And I think like, this is it. I failed my mission. And just in that moment, while I'm having this adrenaline rush, this, oh, it's hard to explain because you're not seeing it with your eyes, but there was this almost like a blanket or an energy blanket of light, and it just kind of came over me, almost like it cocooned me, like a blanket would if you wrapped it around yourself. And I felt this intense energy. I could feel the light like growing inside me, and immediately I felt finally like this peace, this calm, this love, this kindness, just this wonderful energy I've never felt in my body before or since. Um, I like to compare it to like if you could imagine like laying in your grandma's bosom as she's reading you your favorite bedtime story. You're eating a warm chocolate chip cookie. You're petting your best friend who's a puppy, and you're real close to like a fireplace. You're just warm, cozy, loved, secure, all of it. And it's a very intense but very beautiful feeling all at the same time. I've never felt anything like that, and I do hope to feel it again someday. Um, I realized that it's coming from this kind of direction, and it's like growing. It started as something small in like my peripheral because I'm still looking at my body and the scene happening as they're carrying me away. I focus my attention in this immediate area, and just like my computer screen's doing, there's a bright light coming from this area that's got me enveloped in this blanket. And I look at it, and son of a gun, I compare it. Have you ever seen the movie Cocoon by chance?
Oh, yes. I was just referencing it the other day.
If you remember the light body aliens, I hate to call it an alien because it definitely wasn't, but there's a light body, glowing humanoid structure, not a very detailed face, but yet very bright white with like gold radiation off of it. But yet, have you ever looked really closely at like a TV screen and you could see the little RGB squares in there?
Hmm.
It was kind of like that. It as a whole, it looks white, but when you look closely in it, there's little colors inside it. I compare that more like to combining the like an Alex Gray painting with the light bodies from the movie Cocoon, if that makes sense. That's the best way for me to describe it. Um, I actually used AI and kind of found uh, an image that I put together that kind of sort of describes what I saw. I just put it up in my
Oh,
background
thank
if
you
you
for
can
doing
see
that.
it.
Yeah.
Whoop, yeah, if you can
Oh,
see it,
wow. I
it
can.
was
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for sharing that.
kind of like that. Um, that was the best I could do with AI. But immediately I look at it and I already know, like if I'm dead, usually the first thing you're going to see is the big man upstairs, is so I've heard. And I'm looking at him and I already know the answer, but I thought it in my head, but I thought it as if I was asking it. Again, I have no mouth to say the words, but I just was like, "Are you God?" I mean, I was almost embarrassed to say it, to be honest, because like I knew that I knew, but I was just double checking and verifying in my own soul or mind. And he just kind of was looking at me just like you know me, dude. I'm like, how you doing? Like, hey. I've also compared that feeling to like if you've ever walked up to a friend in a bar who didn't quite see you, sneak up on him and you tap him on the shoulder and you're already like, hey, and then he goes, hey. You gave me that kind of feeling like, hey, yeah, it's me. Like, what'd you think it was? And I just was kind of stunned. I was definitely very humbled, and it was a very familiar feeling too. I, in that moment, kind of realized like I've been here before. I've been in the in between, and it really made me realize like your soul has like energy never dissipates, right? That's one of the rules in our universe, right? And I feel like now looking back in that moment, I had realized like my soul's been here forever and my soul's going to continue on forever, but I'm just this Bryan for a short period of time, 50, 60, 70 years hopefully. um but it was just a realization like I've been here before and I've known him before in between all the other lives, if that makes sense, prior to this one. I knew that in that very moment, just instinctually it kind of hit in the back of my, not brain because I'm not connected to my body, but in my soul. I knew that. Kind of hard to explain. um I felt more things coming off of it. Me being a little bit spiritual, I had to ask him too. I'm like, I also like feel like Buddha in you. And he gave me that little jovial, like that little smile that you see, and kind of like a jolly jiggle to his laugh, and showed me his Buddha self in one quick like flash. And I remember even saying, like like I see Jesus in you too. And I that's where like that love and that peace and that kindness and that type of energy was coming off of him, just full peace. It's um, I've never experienced that in the 3D in this real life, but being in the presence of that, you could feel Jesus's love and that peace all in one. And again, I've been open to other messengers, and the back of my mind is just like, ask him. And I'm like, I see Krishna in you too. There's like this wisdom and this like timely ancient feel to him. And in that moment, you turned blue. I've said this before. He kind of gave me this weird, I don't know, breakdance like hand
It's
jive
like the
thing.
it's if for those that are listening on the audio only, it's sort of like the walk like an Egyptian stance, the dance, that dance from that song.
Kind of like that, yeah. Kind of like that. Yes. And you know, he had a crown. I don't even remember seeing pictures of Krishna wearing a crown, but I've looked him up, and in some pictures he's actually wearing a kind of a crown just like that. Almost looked like a cornucopia on the back of his head. And that was interesting. Um I even mentioned Jah, like Yahweh Jah Rastafari, because I had been with Rastafarians when I was on the road, so I had to ask. And I'm seeing like all these deities, and it really kind of hit me that, you know, God is of course the main thing, but all these messengers, all these other deities are just pieces of God communicating to us to get the message across. And we're not realizing that some people, not only mine's right, or only mine's right, or only mine's right. That's really not the case. I think they all hold a piece of the puzzle, and we're so busy fighting amongst ourselves that we're just not getting the message that all of this is of God. We're all pieces of fractals of God. It's just those messengers were more enlightened, trying to show us the way, if that makes sense. And when I finally asked that and it kind of hit me, he even looked at me, goes, "Ah, you're remembering quickly this time." And in that moment is when it all hit. Like, yeah, I've been here a bajillion times. I've seen you before. I know you. Um, a very strange feeling. It when that realization kind of hits you, you just realize how short this life is, and you realize like how important it is too at the same time. I I immediately just went to, hey man, I'm sorry, like I didn't finish my mission. I got to get back in my body. What do I got to do to get back in my body? And he's just like, hey, relax, let's go for a walk. You have time, come with me. And we kind of moved on. And you know, I'm still antsy about it. I'm still antsy about it. Like, hey, I'm real sorry, I didn't finish my mission. What do I have to do to get back in my body? And he just kind of gave me this, and like, what do I need to do when I get back in my body? I wasn't asking to get back in my body, or can I get back in my body. I was really adamant about when I get back in my body. Maybe it's the sales guy in me,
Yeah.
but I didn't want to go like if or can I. It was just like, when I get back in my body, what do I need to do? And you know, now looking back, I've seen other people's experiences. I get it that I was getting like downloads, because as fast as you could ask the question was as fast as I was getting an answer. I, eh, there's more pieces to it that I'm trying to recall, but I adamantly remember him saying a handful of things, which was number one was you need water, aspirin, and citrus peels when you get back in your body. That was the first thing that I remember. And I just thought it was awkward because who eats citrus peels, but okay. And from there I was like, okay, well, what do I need to do to like get better and fix myself and get back into better, you know, shape again, so I live, you know, that beyond that point. And again, just downloads upon downloads. I remember still things do surface, but the top few were moringa seeds, sea moss, intermittent fasting, telling me to uh, cut carbs, no more sodas. So those are like some of the first five that I do recall, and more kind of come to me the more I kind of think about it and meditate on it. So we had kind of moved on to a point to where I realized that as fast as I could ask a question was as fast as I could get an answer. So I just kind of realized like, okay, I'm gonna ask more questions. And immediately it, it it came to me that over my 43 years at the time, I had acquired a lot of different questions. You know, things in the realm of the meaning of life, like how do you heal this? How do you fix that? What, Who's right? Why is there evil in the world? Just all these questions. And I started asking, and as fast as I could ask them, they were hitting me. So I like to say, like, I basically took a book of chapters of questions and just kind of gave it to them, like, here, answer these. And I'm telling you, in that moment, my whole bandwidth, from just a few questions to a handful of questions, my whole bandwidth just, and I was able to ask that book, and I was getting downloaded and downloaded just terabytes of questions. Something at this point, I also made a graphic for this. Something at this point, something changed to where I feel like my conscious and my subconscious were able to separate, because my subconscious stayed there learning with God. And I felt like I also, in that like scene, um, like I went to school in a way. There was so much going on. And I just remember small visions of things. I remember sitting at a desk. I remember there being other people around me learning, but yet they weren't in body form, much like I was. And I remembered like being escorted through like hallways. I remember very high archways, like well over easily 60, 70 feet probably. Some of it kind of reminded me of pictures I've seen of like ancient Rome. I remember super vivid colors. Actually, I don't know if you could see the scene behind me, but I'm now addicted to addicted to the color purple.
Oh, that's yeah.
Um, so I've got all these lights around me that I always keep purple around me now, because like it's a very vivid color that I remember. Um, but while my subconscious was doing that and traveling and learning and asking questions and getting downloads, my main conscious was focusing on something else. Just as in that graphic that I had just had up there, uh, I I suddenly remembered like just another place. I can't really explain it, but I knew how to get there was a different frequency. They say raising your vibration, raise your frequency. That clicked in my head, and I was like, oh wait, there's something more. And the best way to explain it is like an even zero tone. Like if you were doing an is just a basic flat, like calm. You're not anxious. You're not too tired or relaxed. You're just an average, like baseline vibration, I guess is the way to say it. But I was like, all right, let's do this. Oh, and I thought of a very high note frequency or whatever. And that's when this happened in this picture, is when I felt my entire energy just go like straight shot straight up onto a new plateau, a new aspect. I can't really, it might even be a new dimension, because all of a sudden I am above Earth, and Earth is about, you can't see my hands, about yay big, but at a far distance down below me. And I'm in space, and I'm looking down at Earth, and I can see, it's hard to explain, but I want to say all the life on Earth, everything that was alive, the trees, some of the ocean. And I remember seeing little dots of humans all the way down there on Earth. If you could see above my this shoulder in this area was kind of how the majority of it looked. You could see those little dots of gold. I compare this part to like the Matrix, to where, if you remember, everything inanimate was green in the Matrix at one point, but everything that was alive had like this gold base aura to it. And that is what I was seeing at this point, looking down at the earth. I saw all life. And it's a very amazing, stunning view, but yet, what am I doing up here? And at some point, it was like, this felt familiar. How do I know this place? I'm kind of looking around, and son of a gun, I know it sounds weird, but I started hearing whispers, which turned into little voices, which turned much louder as I focused on them. I was hearing them all, but if you just focused on one, I remember the first one that I heard sounded like a young Korean girl, maybe 9 to 12 years old, and she was just saying, "Mommy, mommy, where are you?" I was swimming in the, can't remember if she said pond or lake, but I was swimming, and my foot got stuck in the mud, and it was hard to breathe, and I can't get out, and it's so cold here. And I remember in that moment, I actually smelled like swampy water,
Wow.
and I could feel like this the clamminess that this girl was feeling. That I had a hunch like she literally just drowned, and she's looking for her parents. And it was amazing to me that I could hear her. And just in that moment, I kind of focused on the next one, and it was an older gentleman, had to be around, I'd say 70, and I can't remember if it was Margaret, something like that, but he had a Scottish accent, and he was just saying, "Margaret, Margaret." We were driving, and we were coming around the corner, and I remember the truck. I remember the lights of the truck, and then and he gasps, and the man just realized, I could feel the emotion of his, what he was feeling, that he just realized he had just passed away in a vehicular accident, and he's calling out to his wife, and most likely she's somewheres around here, or maybe not, that she had just passed too. But you could feel this desperation. You could feel his emotion for her, that he loved her, that he had known her for so long. You could feel all that. I could sense all that. Um, there was a third one, a young boy. I don't remember an accent, so I would say he might have been Midwest, somewhere around 17-ish, but he was talking to himself, and he's just like, "Man, I probably shouldn't have taken all those pills. My mom's going to be real upset with me, but I just couldn't take the pain anymore. I couldn't take this depression, you know. Nobody liked me." And he's just kind of talking to himself out there, and he realizes he's passed and that he just did himself in. And I'm feeling his pain, and I'm feeling his desperation, and I'm feeling his like depression. I could feel it on him. Such an interesting, to be able to, if I would have listened, or if I think about it more, I'm sure I could remember some more, but those were the first three for sure, and they stood out very much. And I'm thinking to myself, like, how can I hear them? Why can I hear them? And I didn't think to speak out and see if they could hear me, because that would have been weird. It was enough that I was hearing their voices, but it would have been weird if I started talking to them. You being a medium might understand what that feels like,
Yeah.
because like you could feel their energy, you could feel what they're going through, you could feel it all. I knew a little bit of the storyline behind each of them, but yet it was only seconds that I heard them speaking. I could feel that. It's hard to explain. But in that moment, I kind of got, I don't know if it was paranoia or something, but like, although this place felt familiar, like I knew this area, I just felt like maybe I shouldn't be allowed to be here right now. Like, why am I here right now? It felt familiar to me in a way. And I like to explain that it almost felt like, if you had a leave of absence from where you work, right? And you step back into your office or your cubicle or wherever you usually have been working. It felt that familiar to me. But then again, it felt like maybe after hours, or it's closed, and maybe I'm not supposed to be here right now. And kind of in that moment, instead of looking down upon the earth, and I felt part of me was almost a little uncomfortable, to where, maybe I shouldn't be hearing all this. And I wanted to kind of retract from it. I realized that there's something else happening here. I looked up to my right, and there are these two giant entities, humanoid, much like how kind of God showed me himself. I can see this energy connecting them to everything. There's an interaction happening between them and these people that are down on earth, in the in between, that as these people represent, that had just passed away. And I'm kind of observing them completely in awe, like completely in awe, just kind of like, whoa, what is this? And I can see that they're reaching out and they're consoling these poor people that have just passed away, and they're trying to answer them their questions and direct them to maybe their next mission, or just try to explain to them that they just passed, and just trying to ease them through the process. And I'm kind of observing this for what might have been 10 seconds, 15 seconds or so. And a son of a gun, if one of them didn't make eye contact with me, and immediately felt like, maybe I shouldn't be here right now. Like,
Don't call on me. Please don't call on me.
kind of like that.
Yeah.
Like, I have compared it to maybe like if you were trespassing, like wandering around through like an abandoned mall, and finally the security guards caught you. You were planning on leaving, you didn't mean any harm, but you're busted. And that's kind of how I felt, like just like, hi, like, sorry, like, should I be here right now? And it was a very strange feeling where he looked at me with this remembrance, like, hey, what are you, bro, what are you doing here right now? Like, wait, you know me? And there was another, they're very ambiguous, but he definitely had a masculine energy. So I'm calling him he. Um, but he kind of nudged, elbowed the other entity that is obviously working with these people in the in between, trying to console them and help them and direct them. And he kind of nudged, and he goes, look who it is. It's And he said a name that I can't repeat. I don't remember it fully, but I knew in that moment that he had called me by my soul's name. Whatever I've been for eternity, whatever that soul is outside of being Bryan right now, and whatever I've been before and whatever I'll be later, he called me by my soul's name. I really wish I could remember it because I felt it in me. Like, oh, I knew that was me. Like, that is my soul's name. I wish I could remember it.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it was a pretty cool feeling. But he's like, look who it is. It's such and such. And while the female entity is trying to help people, you could tell that they're backlogged, or under, they're working too hard. They're I feel like there's millions of people down there that only a few of these entities are trying to help in the in between, and they're very backlogged, if that makes sense.
It's
Like,
like the DMV.
there's a lot of work to do and not enough people to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, very much like the DMV. Now that you mentioned that, I never thought of it that way. Um, but she kind of gasped and looked over. It was like, huh? Like, what are you doing here right now? I'm like, I don't know. I'm just trying to kind of get back to my body. Can you help me? And in the meantime, my my subconscious, I still see myself sitting at a desk and going to school and asking questions and raising my hand and having time with these other entities that are at desks, but yet my attention is focused on this part of the situation. And I'm just like, hey, I'm trying to get back to my body, like, can you help me out? And the female one had this look on her face like, wait a minute. She goes, you knew this was going to happen, and you knew you were going to be here, you knew this, you were going to come up here, and you gave me something to give you just in case this happened. And she was kind of like dumbfounded, like, you almost predicted this as a soul when you've been here before. You knew this was going to happen, and you gave us something to give to you, Bryan, to bring back with you when you snap out of this. I'm like, okay, what? Like, I don't get it. But she's like, no, no, wait, I'll be right back, and just kind of dissipated off into what I like to say, like a janitor's closet in space, or wherever we were right now, wherever I left my locker and something in my locker. And so she dissipates off. I can tell that there's these entities are building up as far as the people in the in between that have died or passed that need help. It's getting like a little brighter, as if there's more souls occurring as we're actually. I feel like I'm interrupting them and helping these people across. But he's like, hey man, like, how's it going down there? And I'm like, mission report. Like, hey man, they're poisoning the water, they're poisoning the food down there. We have to pay to live on a planet. It's kind of weird. There's so many evil people. They're doing all this bad, and I'm trying to give him all the details as if I'm giving him like a mission report. And I realize like time is short. I don't have much time left to tell you, so I'm trying to give him all the information that I can. And I could tell that in the subconscious schooling thing, the signal is getting weaker. That bandwidth that I had, I can tell it's kind of dissipating, and I could feel like there's a finality. Like, I don't know if you've ever had a dream where you felt like you're gonna wake up soon, but it was kind of in that realm of feeling like, okay, something's about to wrap up here. And again, I'm giving him my mission report. I guess I'm wrapping it up at school, putting my books in my book bag. And he's just like, hey man, well, basically I said, like, you need to send help. We need more people down there. It's getting bad. And he's like, we've been sending people there. There's plenty of spiritual warriors down there that are there to help raise the vibration of the planet. And you need to continue helping these people and awaken them and help raise the vibration of the planet. And, it still doesn't fully make sense to me on how to do that. But in that very moment, I was like, oh, okay. Okay, but how? Like, I wanted to ask him, how do you do that? And just in that very moment, the female entity comes back, and she's got this, I like to say, smaller than a beach ball, but bigger than a volleyball, about yayish big ball. Um, Inside it looked much like the contents of a lava lamp. It was kind of fiery, orangish, reddish. I remember there being like sparkles glistening in there. There were some black specks in there. Um, you could see an energy inside it, kind of like, do you remember those plasma balls where you could touch it and it'll chase your finger with lightning, but it
Yeah.
doesn't hurt?
Hmm.
There was an energy inside it like that as well. And I'm just like, whoa, what is that? And she's like, here, this is what you gave me to give to you when you came back at this time. And was just like, okay, here you go. And threw it towards me. And mind you, I'm just a ball of light. In this 2 seconds that it took to get from her to me, I realized, like, wait, how am I going to catch this? I don't have any arms, you know. So I kind of just braced for impact, and I remember it hitting me. I remember this flash happening, and in that moment, I actually opened my eyes in the real world, and the orderly that had helped get me on the gurney that I pointed at and asked to help me is now doing like this in my chest, and it kind of hurts. It's uncomfortable, and I kind of just and I'm still kind of stunned because I was just in the spirit world 2 seconds ago, and I'm just kind of looking at him for a second, like, "Hey, is this real?" I didn't say anything, but I'm thinking it, and he's like, "Hey, buddy, you're awake." I'm like, huh? And he's like, hey, can you say your name? And I said my name, Bryan Duszczak, and he's like, good, good, you can speak. He's like, do you know where you are? And I'll keep it G-rated. I said I better be in a flipping hospital because I feel like I feel like crap. And he laughed a little bit too, and like it kind of put me at ease. Like, okay, this is real. I still have this weird ethereal hum, like staticky feeling on my body. And he's like, hey man, good news and bad news is, looks like you just had a stroke. Um, we gave you some juice, like whatever it is, the injection to break up a clot that was in your body. Good news is we broke it up, but the bad news is it's separated into three smaller clots. And he said, well, I don't know how he knew. I don't know how long I was really out. It felt maybe a theory or 3D, like maybe 10 minutes, but I'm not sure because he said one's traveling back to your brain, one's going to your heart, and one's going to your lungs. So I don't know how long I was out, but like, I don't even know if they did like a CAT scan on me. Like, how did he know one's going to my brain, one's going to my heart, one's going to my lungs? Or is that normally like what happens when they break up a clot? I'm not sure about that. Um, so there was already an IV in me, and he's got a syringe in his hand, and he says they're preparing the OR. This is the knockout juice. You're going to be out for 8 to 12 hours. As I'm 90% sure that's what he said, 8 to 12 hours, and we're about to crack open your ribs. You're about to have open heart surgery. And that's no. In that moment though, something kind of took over where I I didn't say what I was about to say, and I didn't move my arm, but my hand definitely went over his hand, and what came out of my mouth was, no, we're not having any surgery today. Take me to a private room. I know what I need to do. And in that moment, I saw all the hairs on his arm stood up. His hand shook a little bit. He picked up his thumb. I looked up at him, and his pupils were like like this guy was on LSD or something. Like I feel like I kind of put the Jedi voodoo, like these aren't the droids you're looking for on him. And he took his finger off the syringe and pulled it out of the connection that goes into your IV line. And he's just like, I don't know why, but I believe you. I'll take you to a private room. Like, what else do you need? And again, I'm not fully saying it. I'm hearing myself say it, but it's not me thinking to say it. But I said, I need aspirin, I need water, and I need all the citrus that you can bring me. He's like, yeah, okay. So he kind of wheels me to another room while he's gone. I like to say Hillary Clinton's little sister made me sign some release paperwork so they're not responsible in case I die in the next couple minutes. Um, I remember the doctor from the OR came in the room and he's like, hey, I'm Dr. Such and such. We were just about to do open heart surgery. I see that you just signed this paperwork. He's like, sir, you're about to have a heart attack. This clot's traveling back to your heart. Like, this is not good. Like, you need to have surgery right now. And I'm like, I don't know why I know what I know, but I'm going to be okay. And just as I'm saying that, the orderly, again, that I originally saw that woke me up, that took me to this room, comes back. He's got this tray. It's got two pitchers on it, 2 packs of aspirin with 2 aspirins each in there, and a bowl of, I remember, a couple of grapefruits, a couple of oranges, limes, lemons, and that's all I really remember. Orange, yeah. And immediately I just crushed the aspirin with the pitchers. I scooped it into my hand. I've said before that I could swear they thought I was about to snort this aspirin because I grabbed it like this and I'm bunching it up on the corner of a table and I put it in the pitchers, started chugging the pitchers and started peeling away and started eating the peels, which is very counter intuitive.
Intuitive? Yeah.
Yeah, it's just not something you would normally do. Super tart, not a good taste at all. But that's was what my body was telling me to do. I was craving it like I've never, like I like to say, a fat kid loves cake. As a former fat guy, and
Yeah.
I can say that. But I was like literally craving it. I couldn't get enough in it. I'm mushing it up in my mouth and different pieces of each one. I'm washing down the aspirin water and I could hear, I've got these sensors on me right now, and I could hear my heart's doing irregular things, and they said something stat and defib this, and they're getting weirded out, and it's getting hectic. There's like 4 or 5 people in this room. I remember, including the doctor, the, the orderly, another nurse, and another male orderly, and I think there was another female in there, if I'm not mistaken. But anyways, they started kind of panicking. And in that moment, the same voice that I had with God, which was definitely a telepathic communication while I was in his presence, I heard cough hard, cough now, and don't stop coughing. So I kind of rinsed down a little bit of what peels were left in my mouth and just as hard as I could, as much as I could. I'm taking deep breaths. I remember I think I was on the fifth or sixth cough, and I took another sip of this aspirin water. Your mouth got dry, and I'm going and I'm going, and all of a sudden I felt a pop, and then this weird gelatinous, squishy feeling right here in my heart. I like to say it kind of reminds me of like what a jellyfish shaped like, because it just had this mass in the beginning and then just a tail behind it. That's the best way to explain it. But I felt that and I kept coughing and I kept coughing maybe 5 more times ish. And then I felt the tail end. I felt the squish and then the pop. And this whole time they're panicking. They were getting the suitcase ready with the defibs in there. And I realized just in that moment, I think I just had the heart attack. I just passed the clot through my heart. And he's looking at the doctor's looking at me, the orderly's looking at me like, holy crap, I've never seen that before. He was kind of like, whoa, you know, and the doctor's just like, sir, how did you know how to do that? And the best way to explain it is I'm just like, sir, I just died. I feel like I just took a walk with God and he showed me what I needed to do. I asked a bunch of questions and this was one of them. And here we are. Um, they kept me in the hospital for about 3 more days. I'd actually not much longer after, maybe 10 minutes after that, I felt a similar pain, but I could tell the clot had traveled through my heart again, but it was smaller. And it traveled through my heart again a while after that, and it was smaller. I was getting little twinges in little places as if I could feel the clot getting smaller and smaller, but kept circulating through my system. I finished both of those pitchers, 4 aspirin and the entire bowl. I also ate the fruit later on, but that was the remainder of what I ate for the next 3 days I was in the hospital. That was July 9th, 2018. Um, but yeah, I felt like, you know, God showed me how to survive the heart attack, at least at the pace it was coming to me, when I woke back up. Since then I've taken all the advice that I remember. I regularly eat moringa seeds. I've actually got some in my pocket right now. Um, you know, all the sea moss. I've got gel in my fridge right now that I use regularly. I remembered these are little they're not antacids technically, but they're it's baking soda without ammonia or without the aluminum in it.
Aluminum,
Yes,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I keep my body as alkaline
Alkaline,
as
yeah.
possible. Um, I rarely have touched bread. I stopped drinking soda, although on occasion, like maybe once every 2 weeks, I'll have a Red Bull, admittedly, if I'm
Mhm.
dragging butt. But that's a lot different from drinking 2 or 3 of those every day,
Yeah.
like I was. I drink a heck of a lot of water. I've always got one nearby, 40 ounces of water a day at least. But yeah, I've completely changed my diet and I'm back down to floating around 155 to 160. Uh,
You look really healthy for those that can't see, Brian. You look like an average sized, healthy person. So thank God for that. Thank you so much for sharing that because I know you've shared this over and over again, and I really appreciate you going into such depth. And so I have questions. Well, first, how did you just go back to normal life after that? Was
uh,
it difficult for you to assimilate?
Dude, it's funny that you asked that. So I was working at a veteran-owned, veteran-run company that thank God had great insurance. I didn't pay much for the whole stroke thing that happened, but I had a few weeks before they let me back in. We needed doctor's clearance, things of that nature. So I wasn't a liability at work. But I still remember the first day that I sat back at my desk. I was excited to get there and do my thing and keep up with my accounts and do all that. But it was super awkward because, like, I wasn't used to anything like that otherworldly outside of being astral a few times. This was completely different. The biggest, most spiritual thing that's ever happened to me. And I still felt some of that. It was still fresh in my mind. I could close my eyes even now and still see it today. And that was really hard to kind of do while I'm sitting in office with coworkers I used to, joke around and goof with, and I remember sitting at my desk, looking at my computer. One of the, I guess, after problems that I had was
Yeah.
my left eye had a small blind spot about yay big looking straight ahead. So I'm realizing like looking at my monitor was like having one eye partially covered. It was kind of awkward to get focused on my computer and 3 monitors around me. And I noticed, to be honest, I thought people were going to think I was crazy after, if I even told anybody. I didn't even tell my wife what happened, as far as what I remembered while I was out. um, she only found out that I had a stroke 3 days later when I finally did call her from the hospital. She didn't bother calling.
'Cause you
um,
guys were in a fight.
yeah, that was awkward, but whatever. Anyways, but being at work was a huge weird. I remember actually crying a couple times at my desk. Just everything felt different to me. I'm seeing things in a whole new light. I became very soft spoken, and I wouldn't say I was boisterous, but I was kind of a life of the party kind of guy. And being on the phone, I was kind of aggressive, and um, I had lost a lot of that. I wanted to be nice to people. I think in my head was like a battle. I wanted to A, make sense of it all, but B, I wanted to embody what I had learned in that very short period of time with God. Like, the love, the light, the kindness, the patience, the jovialness of his Buddhist self, the happy, vibe that I was getting off of him, the wisdom that I got from his Krishna self. Like, it's a lot to take on, and like want to be able to embody that. And I'm sitting here at my desk, I'm crying a little bit. This just feels like too much. It's overwhelming. But yet at the same time, like, is when I was like, yeah, like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Mhm.
I felt like, you know, being a salesperson, yeah, it was great money. I wasn't scamming anybody. People loved what we sold, and it was a great company to work for, very patriotic. But yet, I just I didn't want to do it anymore. I want to do something more, something higher, something good for people, something that helped people, something that felt more true to me, that was more meaningful. So needless to say, I didn't make it much longer there. My wife definitely noticed there was something different about me. I didn't speak very much. Um, but I was also noticing that I guess the word is empathic, but it's beyond empathic. Being empathic is when somebody tells you, "Oh, my mom died," and you're like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry."
Yeah.
But it was more than that. It's 100% more than that. One of my coworkers was pregnant, and her boyfriend and her got into a physical fight, and he left her, and I felt her anguish. She didn't have to say anything about her anguish. I felt her anguish, if that makes sense. Much like how I was saying, I felt the energies of some of the people that were in the in between. I could feel people's stress. I could sense it. They didn't have to say anything. I wasn't reading their thoughts, but I could almost feel them
Mhm.
in a way. So it got very uncomfortable because now I'm around, I think there's at least 70, 80 people in my building that this is just too much to feel all the time. I found myself going outside just to get a breath of fresh air, like on every half hour, just to kind of, let that go. Over time, I still feel that. I've learned to kind of like protect my own space and kind of let that happen around me, but yet not let it come into my field, if that makes sense. Um, I've had a couple premonitions that definitely came true that kind of freaked me out. I could tell you a quick story if you want to hear one.
I would love it.
So after leaving there, I did well. So this was January of 2018 is when or sorry, 2020 is when I finally left the company. So I did have that few months leave of absence, came back, did it for another year or so, and then that's when I was just like, I can't do it anymore. So started doing things like DoorDash, Lyft, and Uber during 2020 when everybody was trying to be essential. Um, but I had this Uber ride. I was the driver, obviously, and I picked up somebody. I'm in San Antonio, Texas, so I had picked up somebody from the Lackland Air Force Base. Just having a general conversation with this guy, um, to rewind, the actual premonition that happened was I picked up a few new habits. I like to ground more often, so I'll put my feet to the ground, no shoes or socks on, while getting some sun. Luckily, there's a lot more sun here in Texas than there is in Chicago, so you can do that almost year round. And then I do a hot sauna a few times a week. I had done one this day. Ate my breakfast, chugged a bunch of water, ate some moringa, all the little things that I do. Um, After the sauna, I took a shower. When I got out of the shower, I was about to shave and brush my teeth, and I had this overwhelming feeling that I needed to lay down, which isn't normal for me. Since I got much healthier, I don't need naps. But at this point, something was telling me, you have to lay down, like right now. So I was like, okay, I kicked my dog off my bed and closed the door and literally just put my head on the pillow, and I was out within, I'd say, less than 10 seconds. Not normal for me at all. It didn't feel like unhealthy. I didn't feel lightheaded. I just felt like I needed to lay down. And it was one step from being actually told telepathically that you need to lay down. Like this just overwhelming, my whole soul is telling me I need to lay down. And immediately in this vision or whatever you want to call it, I'm driving. And in that moment, I laughed because, of course, I drive all day at this point. It was just funny to me that, of course, I would dream about driving. But it was more than just a dream. In that moment, I could see the signs. I could feel the hum of the road. My hands on the wheel. I could see the speed limit on my, on the odometer. And it was just very strange. I know I'd been on this road. I was on 410 headed towards the city. And son of a gun, if the voice that I had heard from God, the voice that had told me to, start coughing and coughing hard, is the same voice that said, slow down now. And, I think I was going like 69 in this vision. So I slowed down to about 60, and son of a gun, up to my right, out the passenger side, I remember there's a blue car and it's coming from 2 lanes over and swerving directly into my lane, and like literally it's gonna hit me. So I slowed down just enough that it went in front of me into the next lane, and then what do you call it, pit maneuvered the truck in front of me, or sorry, in the next lane over, pit maneuvered that guy, and that guy crosses over into my lane, hits the wall, and I went like, whoa, what was that? Like, why would I dream something so vivid, so accurately, like it was so real? Why would I dream something like that? Like, that's crazy. It woke me up so much that I had adrenals. I just got up. I'm like, all right, let me finish my day, brush my teeth, shaved, went about my day, let the dog out, all that, got in my car. And I think I was about 5 hours into my shift around 7:30. And I didn't think too much of it. I picked up a guy at Lackland Air Force Base, like I was saying. We get on 410 and we're headed towards the city. And son of a gun, if I'm looking around and I realize that I am in the exact scene
Wow.
when I had that vision. And son of a gun, I look 69 on the speedometer. And I got that feeling. Slow down now. I slowed down and I look to my right. And son of a gun, if there's not a blue car coming from 2 lanes over, but now I can see inside the vehicle, and there is a lady with a blowtorch hitting a bolo pipe, doing drugs while driving with no hands. She comes over into my lane, and I already knew there's going to be a truck. I look, son of a gun, there's a truck passing me on the left side as I'm slowing down. T-bones the truck, or not T-bones, pit maneuvers the truck. Literally pushed him over. He goes into the wall. We've only got seconds to react. And he's bouncing off. So I swerve around him. She starts spinning, hit another vehicle in the next fastest lane. I veered in between her and that first truck she hit, veered to the right around that, her and how she's spinning in that vehicle she just hit, and veered back over. I literally did an S around these 3 vehicles, all in a matter of mere seconds. And the crazy part is I had a rider in the back, and he's going, OF, 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 like we're done for. We're gonna get hit. I looked in the rearview mirror on my third swerve, and there are 2 semi trucks behind us that if I don't get out of this situation, they're gonna push us into these wrecking vehicles. So I made the S. I get around the 3 vehicles. We're fishtailing, and I hear the trucks impact the first truck and then impact her vehicle. And I just kept going down the road. I heard maybe 2 more accidents as we're only, 50 to 100 yards away from the accident. And the guy behind me, he's like, "Sir, what branch of the military are you in?" I'm like, I actually never joined the military. My dad was in the military, though. He's like, "Bullshit, soldier. What branch of the military were you in?" And I'm like, "I wasn't in the military." He's like, "BS." He goes, "I'm a pilot trainer. And he's like, I haven't seen reflexes like that in years. He's like, turn around, go back. We're going back to Lackland right now. He's like, you're in, whatever you want. We're going to do aptitude tests right now. I'm like, sir, I'm almost 50 years old. He goes, BS, BS. He's like, no way. He's like, you look like you're 30, son. I'm like, nah, man, I'm way older than you. He's like, this is crazy. He's like, how did you do that? And I didn't want to tell him, but I had realized in that moment, that vision that I had had earlier today, in the back of my mind was playing out every single possible scenario, if that makes sense. Like the little timelines. If I would have braked a little harder, would the trucks have hit me? If I had not have braked this hard, would I have hit that truck? If I had not swerved to the left, would I have avoided that truck? If I had not swerved back to the right, would I have avoided her? And it's playing out every scenario for the last whatever it was, 5, 6 hours throughout my day. It's all playing in the back of my head, although I had kind of forgotten about it. I mean, I remembered I had a weird vision that day, but not the full on details of everything, and kind of let it go. And son of a gun, if that didn't just save mine and that dude's life, he gave me $20 cash and put another $20 on the app. And
Wow.
I'm sure he's telling that story to this day because I saved his butt and saved my own butt and saved my car too.
That's
Thank
a
God.
good story, even if it wasn't a spiritual story. That's really cool. I mean, it's yeah, and it really it's so fascinating because we talk about these timelines, but then we also have free will. So it's like it always is so I'm so into manifesting and quantum physics, and then I also ask questions like, okay, did I these timelines are all existing simultaneously. Like there's all these different possibilities that could happen. And so sometimes I wonder, like, if I have a premonition, wait, no, other way around. If I'm manifesting something, um, I'd just love to hear your thoughts about this. If I'm manifesting something, is it because I wanted it because it was already in my timeline and somehow I was drawn to it because I knew that that was supposed to be in my timeline? Or did I manifest it by creating my own reality, by thinking about it? And I often wonder that, especially in relationships where I've thought, I believe that when you're manifesting, it has to be in everyone's highest and best good for you to sort of have it work the best way. But then I was like, actually, though, I've manifested relationships that were painful or where I was betrayed. However, I also know that that was a soul lesson, that it was like we had a soul contract. And that's why I was attracted to that person in the first place and was like, one day, because I'll just give the example of this musician that I knew from afar. And I was like, he had a girlfriend. He was sort of well known, but was like, if I just feel like we're supposed to be together, like I think we're supposed to be together, but obviously he's with someone else and I'm with someone else. And my partner at the time was like, why are you always listening to this album? I'm like, I just like it. And then when I actually met him in person, he's like, I need to know you right now. And in my
What?
mind, I was like, it's all happening. The romance is happening. Well, it turns out the guy was also narcissistic tendencies, had a lot of different women and um lied to all of us kind of thing. But he apologized to me once and I was like, it's fine. Like it's fine. It was a lesson I needed to learn for a lot of reasons. So I wonder, like, was I so fixated on this man because we were supposed to have this experience together and so my soul knew that's the person you're supposed to be with, or did I manifest it by saying, I'm going to be with that guy. I'm going to be with that guy. So sometimes it kind of crosses there. What do you think?
I contemplate this exact thing very
Yeah.
often. Like I could go back to kind of like the situation with my wife. Like she was a goddess to me when we first met, but down the line things change, people change. Now,
Yeah.
did I manifest her into my life? I kind of think I did, and I kind of think I planned it. But also I feel like that whole experience was a lesson learned that I
Yeah.
needed to go through in my life. Soon after the stroke, again, I was awfully quiet, always in my head, and we had split soon after. We've been separated since actually only a few months after the stroke happened. Um, so looking back, coming from that kind of point of view is like, all right, well, I did manifest her, but now thinking like, well, if we plan the course of our life, there must be a lesson in there somewhere, so find the
Yeah.
lesson. Although there's, the heartbreak and the aloneness and the depression afterwards, that was a part of it too. That was a part of the lesson that I feel like I needed to learn. And as far as this premonition thing that happened and me being able to see that, well, I feel like maybe I did plan that in a way. Was I giving that vision to myself to make sure I survived? But
Mhm.
then at the same time, was that so that I could be aware that I can do that? Because that's
Yeah.
not the only one. That's just one of the ones that have definitely saved a couple lives there. But um, it's an ever present question. You have to ask yourself that to kind of keep yourself in tune too. I think like, hey,
Yeah.
did I kind of plan that? Like, was that part of one of the lessons? And it actually has helped me with a couple of things where I maybe should be depressed or sad or mad or angry or react a certain way. It'd be like, wait a minute, is this a test? I'm probably tested myself in this situation. So what would be the smartest way? Act in love, act in patience, act in kindness, and realize like, yeah, that's part of the lessons that I wanted to learn in this lifetime, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Normally I record in my booth and I'm recording at a different workstation, so my cat is crawling all over me and
It's
meowing in the
fine.
background of it. Sorry, everyone, but
No, it's fine.
exactly that's the thought. I think about that all the time because I'm like, I did manifest that, but did I want to manifest it? Because, so for example, when I was studying mediumship, I kept referring to myself as a developing medium, and my friend was a medium, and he said, stop saying that. You are a medium. And I said, am I though? And he said, well, why did you want to be a medium? I said, I don't know. He said, because you're a medium. Why was I drawn to it? Not even knowing that I was a medium, So there's, uh, I think our soul kind of does know, I mean, to a degree, but I want to kind of go back just to this point in your NDE where you were feeling, you were seeing the Korean girl drowning, you were seeing this man with Margaret. You this is something as a medium that I'm relating with. And also, so what you did there, because there were millions of people you could have tapped into. And you had asked the question, why am I tapping into that guy? Why am I hearing her voice? Several things. I'm getting chills about this too. Several things. And I want to hear your thoughts on it. Is one, we are all one. So everyone else is sort of a facet of ourselves in a sense. Like we're all part of the same source energy. So
I
therefore, we're
believe
all
that.
just branches of. So in a sense, we can tap into other energies because we are that energy. But also, this is what the medium Suzanne Giesman always says when she goes in to do readings is she said, I just shift my energy. So her prep is to just tell herself shift. So what she's doing is shifting her awareness to the spirit world from the 3D to the 5D. So she just intends, okay, it's time to now shift our awareness. Just in as in manifestation, we're shifting our awareness to the timeline we want to be in or align with. So it's noticing the positive instead of always noticing the negative. That can be argued is also just neuroscience and nothing spiritual. When you notice abundance around you, you're going to be focusing more on that stuff. Therefore, you're going to be in a better place to receive it than if you're always focusing on the negative, you might miss a lot of the positive. So this is so esoteric. It's like hard to put into words. I know,
No,
like
no,
you
I'm open
said.
to it.
Yeah.
It's
So
hard to describe when, eh, I feel like part of me is still very in the spirit world in a way,
yeah,
and it's hard to relate sometimes. Like I feel what you're saying. Like you're a mix. I feel like I'm a mixture of both now, as opposed to being 95% all 3D. I feel like literally at least 40% of me is like 40 or 5D right now,
yeah.
like at all times.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's the thing, that basically what you described when at the time you were like, what is happening here? Why am I just hearing that guy, this man that might be in Scotland and this other person out of all the millions of people? I think that just without knowing it, I suspect you just kind of looked down and your awareness went to a certain place and therefore you were able to pick up on it. So that's the same way that I can communicate with quote unquote dead people. As you said, energy never dies. They aren't dead. They're only in another form. Our energy remains. How consciousness remains, that's a fascinating topic to delve into on a whole new podcast. But so your energy is still there. It doesn't die. It's like water. When it rains, it lands, and then it doesn't just go away, it evaporates, and then it becomes precipitation again. So it always just cycles, just as our energy does. So when I'm connecting with the spirit world, it's the same thing. All I'm doing is drawing my attention to your energy and to the energy of your soul, the souls around you. And therefore that's why I can be like, "Oh, hey, Uncle Pete," or whatever, because I'm really just asking, I think, intending to put my attention there, as opposed to the dog barking outside or some other spirit that might be in my 1927 built house. I'm simply shifting my awareness to, now I'm intending to connect with the spirits, the goal, Brian's people on the other side. And then my awareness is there. And as you said, you also talked about how you didn't have eyes, you didn't have
But you can still
ears,
see.
but you can still see. You don't have ears, but you can still hear. You don't have a mouth, but you can still, because it's all energy and telepathy. Same way that mediums connect with the other side, we are literally using telepathy. And we can use telepathy with each other as humans. We don't even
No,
realize how much we do that.
I believe
So
that.
I'm just making these notes on all of the things that your NDE touched on that just help to sort of paint the picture of what's really going on. I still don't know everything. You still don't know everything, but the matrix comes pretty close.
In a lot of ways, yeah.
So yeah, it's so interesting to me that your experience reflects exactly what I have learned. And I thought it was so interesting when you talked about the senses, because in my view, the body is the antenna for the soul. So the reason you're able to feel the vibration, like you said, when there's like a vibration of music, you can feel it in your chest. That's your physical body. But when you're in your energetic body, you can still feel, you can still sense, you can still hear. These bodies are just built, designed so that when we're in them, we have these receivers so we can still perceive those types of energetic connect vibrations, for lack of a better term. And like you said, when you came out of your near death experience, you suddenly became empathic to the point where you could literally feel other people's feelings. And that's because you are them and they are you. You're just aware of it now. So anything you want to say on that? It's a lot to cover, but just little anything that comes to
No,
mind.
no, I'm agreeing with you. There's two things that have hit me very strongly. Have you by chance heard of the law of one or the raw?
Yes.
Okay,
I went to
so
meetings about it, and I had a guy on the show talk about it. So
so
yeah,
that's big time been calling to me.
me
I've
too.
I've read the works. It makes sense now. And then on top of that, there's one short story by Andy Weir called The Egg.
Oh, that sounds so familiar. Talk about that.
So basically, it's a man who had just passed away, and he's there in the presence of God, and God basically explains to him that, just like he said, like we're all one. In his sense, he explains that we all live all the lifetimes. Time is much different than the way we perceive it, and that we all live all the lifetimes. You have to, and then you progress to the next phase, um, to move to the next level. So again, time is ever. If you get a chance to look at it, it's The Egg by Andy Weir,
Mm.
Weir. But every time I read that, I feel like that's just a little piece of something that I did learn while I was not here. Um, Andy Weir must have experienced the NDE.
Yeah,
I don't question that.
or channeled it. It's yeah. I came across that the Law of One when I lived in Virginia, and I was going into meetup groups just to find spiritual circles there and stuff, um and so it's a really it is it really does reflect back a lot of what I've learned from speaking to people like you. from my own experience as a medium. Some mediums can really tell you, no, I know spirits have tell me this is what's going on the other side, and I know this to be true. I don't know because I have my own ideas about what that could be. So I don't know if um, I already have my own ideas. And so I wouldn't necessarily be able to tell if I was channeling it or if it's something that I felt or knew.
I feel that. Yeah,
Yeah.
we've all got our own, perceptions, and it's just, I don't know, life's a big great mystery, and it's given me this new oomph to just start looking into more things and to be more open to things. I actually, was it March, April, May of this year, had another, I guess, thought or inkling or a feeling, and became a minister at the Universal Life Church. What it was about them is that they're more of an omnis church. They're open
Mhm.
to all the beliefs as opposed to just one. So it's something that I felt like I needed to do to in order to kind of get closer to what I learned when I was kind of on the other side, and just keep absorbing more of all the aspects of everybody, much like when I was on the road at 18, learning from all the beliefs and taking the finer points of each one and trying to apply those into my life. I feel like that makes sense to me. You know, some people from certain belief systems feel that all the other ones might be deities or Satanists or whatever because it's not their thing, and I don't feel at all that's what God is trying to portray. I mean, if He's all seeing, all knowing, and omnipresent, He created those too. Or
Yeah.
I hate to say He, but the energy created those as well. Those are all of God, so they can't necessarily be wrong. Outside of like even Luciferianism and Satanism, stuff like that, it's a little weird.
Yeah.
But outside of that, I mean, if you look at Buddha and Krishna's teachings, they're very coinciding with what Jesus was saying too. Um, Something that I also learned in that Andy Weir story that I told you about the egg was it really comes down to a root basis that all beliefs have some form of this, which is the whole do unto others as you would do unto yourself.
Yeah.
But what you soon realize is that when you apply that to the with the we are one, you're doing unto yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And I think, we hear that a lot. Like we are all one, and it sounds so hippy dippy, but really diving into near death experiences, your experience reflects that back. And I believed too that there are truths in each religion. Each religion comes from some truth. Personally, not one resonates with me as the law and the truth. They all are problematic in some ways. I don't know, maybe I wouldn't say Buddhism, but that's not a religion. It
A
just, I
belief.
think, yeah, so I think it is, I love that. And my mom took me to the Unitarian Universalist church when we were kids because I wanted to go to church, but they weren't religious. But I got my gifts from my mom, I now know. And so, but she never really expressed it or shared much about it. It was just sort of part of our lives. So, I do think if we could just, maybe this sounds a little kumbaya, but if we could all try to understand that there's truth in every religion and we wouldn't be having these wars, that because extremism comes out of religion, which is why I don't like it. It's why I don't feel comfortable with it, because you can take it too far in one direction. And to me, the whole point of spirituality is love, connection, unity with the earth, with one another. That's what we're here to do. And unfortunately, because of religion, we have created these rules in this world that put some people above other people and oppress some people while giving other people the advantage. So that's why I'm so happy to have people like you on this show too, just because I think there's a misunderstanding about spiritualism. No, I don't want to say you're a spiritualist, but like about the spiritual world, that a lot of people think it's we're called woo woo or it's weird or whatever.
Mhm.
And I think to me, it's like as much as some people believe in their religion, I believe this is the everyone thinks their religion is right, right? I have my non-religion. it really does say that we are literally supposed to love one another and care for one another because we literally are one. We are supposed to take care of one another. And there's just so much division because we're in these meat suits where we are divided and there's
Yep.
the illusion of separation. And I
Yep.
think it's important that, as you said, your mission, everyone's mission, right? I know you didn't say that from a place of I'm some kind of a guru. It's like
No, no.
our mission as human beings is to come here and raise the vibration, less of war, less of hate, less of fear. And then really, even though it seems like, what's that going to do? Just us, just you being the loving person you are. And we're flawed. We are still human. We still make mistakes. We still go through breakups. We still don't always make the best choices, but we are here to remind people who they are and to remember who we are, first and foremost, so that we can also then put that love out into the world, treat each other with kindness and forgiveness and compassion. And there just needs to be more of that. So I want to thank you so much for contributing to that very worthy mission, even if you did nothing else in this world. I don't care what people do for a living. It is not about that. It is who you are, how you treat people, how you love yourself, how you love others, how you lead by example. And so I just want to say, having just met you, thank you for leading by example. Thank you for showing up for all the podcasts when you could be so exhausted from telling the story again. But you show up differently every time and with just as much enthusiasm. And I am so grateful for that. And I just want to say thank you so much.
Absolutely. I appreciate that. I'm glad to tell it. I'm here trying to raise the vibe. I'm starting my own podcasting soon, hopefully,
Oh,
talking
great.
to other people and
Yeah.
trying to help them with their issues if I can and see what else I can learn about others and keep going from here. Actually, I wanted to show that was 7-year-old me.
Oh, buddy.
Wait, let me get, there's the sister I was talking about. And then there's my stepmom, and unfortunately, my dad's head's cut off in this
That's okay. I'm sure he was a very handsome guy. Um,
one.
Thank you so much, Brian. Do you have a place where if do you have like a social media where people could connect with you if they want to reach out to you for any reason? Or do you
So,
have, yeah.
so the main basis hub that right now I have is on Facebook. It's called
Okay.
Doozie's Quest, which talks about. It's got a compilation of other podcasts I've done. I've written my story out in like 19 paragraphs with much more detail than I've
Amazing.
given here in this video.
Yeah.
But I think that's going to be where, as I'm trying to build an audience, eventually that's where the podcast is going to be stemmed from. I do have a
Perfect.
YouTube channel, but there's only one video on there, but it's called omnistries.com,
Okay.
omnistries.com. So that's where the podcast is going to be held down the line here eventually.
Omnistries.com.
Yes, ma'am.
And then, yeah, I'll get the Facebook from you so I can link it below. Thank you so much. It
It's a
has been
pleasure.
such a wonderful pleasure to connect with you. And I definitely want to hear more about the podcast. Thank you, everyone, for being here. If you like this episode, if you like this podcast, would you do me a favor? If you're on YouTube, would you subscribe, like, share with your friends, comment below, let me know who's here. It really helps sort of tweak the algorithm so that this podcast gets out to more people. Thank you so much, and we'll see you soon.